You're listening to the Sacred Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Kara Ray, aka the Sacred Mama. I'm a mindset and relationship coach, helping mothers nurture the relationship between themselves, their spouse, and their children. This is also sometimes inside of a co-parenting relationship. This podcast was designed specifically for mothers, stepmothers, and soon-to-be mothers to come together and truly support one another, to have the real, raw, honest, unfiltered, and soulful conversations about the realities of motherhood. My goal is for mothers to reclaim their self-worth and reclaim their self-identity while navigating motherhood. It's time you treated yourself as a priority because most of all, you matter. I believe that you can have the thriving family life. I believe that you can have the booming business. And I believe that you can have the passionate and abundant relationship. Most of all, I believe you can fully love yourself in the now without sacrifice. Throughout this podcast, you'll gain access to the minds of industry leaders and of course solo episodes by yours truly. So, let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Sacred Mama Podcast. Today, I'm extremely excited for today's interview. It's been in the books for quite a few weeks, and I would like to welcome Angharad to the podcast. Did I do that right this time?
You did it great.
Yay!
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm happy to have you, and so welcome. So before we dive in, you guys, I just want to take a moment to introduce her. So Angharad is an author, coach, and a podcast host for High Vibe Babe, Raise Your Vibe, Income and Confidence, and she's a multi-passionate entrepreneur. She is a growth expert and leads herself through deconditioning and expansion to experience her soul's ultimate, passion. Through leading herself, she empowers and magnetizes her tribe of high vibe women who want to live their best life. My daughter obviously got to my computer. That is why I just jumbled over my words. I wish you could see this. There's like A, B, C, D, H, all these things in here. I'm like, what just happened? So she must have looked at my computer. So my apologies, you guys. But that's welcome.
Thank you. Well, she just wants to add a little bit in to the script, you know?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to send you a picture of this after because it's like everything's perfect and it's like JK LMNOP. I'm like, what? Okay. Anyways, you guys, I digress. So today we are going to be discussing self-care, worthiness, and investing in ourselves. And so before we dive in though, I want to ask you this one question. So what does motherhood mean to you?
Oh, I find this hard, honestly, to answer because my old self has a very strong answer, but my new self, like my new sense of motherhood is leading myself and showing my baby how to do the same for them.
Mm-hmm. I think that's beautiful. And honestly, like the question, I feel like it stumps a few moms, but really it's just exactly what it is to you. And I think we overcomplicate like what motherhood is, but it just gets to be exactly what we want motherhood to be to each one of us. So that's a beautiful response. And so I want to go into the second question that I have for you. But what is one of the biggest roadblocks that you've had to overcome as, an entrepreneur? And was there ever a moment where you had felt what I like to call mom guilt?
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely felt the mum guilt. Not so much these days, thank goodness, because I've dealt with the background stuff, but the things that really had held me back in the past, like my big roadblocks, were definitely my limiting beliefs. I honestly, mindset is like my jam, and it's everything comes back to mindset. Yes. Everything has we either have empowering beliefs or limiting beliefs. So that is 100% when I learned about mindset. Honestly, I had wanted to start my online business for 10 years. I had a 10-year launch, and it wasn't until I learned about mindset that I actually got the thing done. So yeah, that was my key.
Yeah. Mindset I think mindset is one of the biggest roadblocks for so many mothers, for so many women when it comes to, being an entrepreneur, but also mindset in regards to our personal life. I feel like mom guilt is something that, stems and comes up in multiple different areas of our lives. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure. It can come up from brushing your teeth or not brushing your teeth. Like literally you could have mum go for both, right?
Yes. Honestly, I love that you brought that up, because the other day I realized that, my 2-year-old, she's in this phase of like brushing her teeth all on her own and being almost independent. And the one day I was like, you didn't brush your teeth. And then I felt horrible that I didn't brush my 2-year-old's teeth. Oh man. So that, anyways, that just kind of flowed into the whole mom guilt thing. Cause I feel like it's real and it's, I want to say multifaceted is the word that I want to say. So another thing, I want to ask you that kind of like goes into this whole mom guilt thing is, I feel like we need to set like non-negotiables as moms for, our self-care, for how we feel as a woman. And so, what is one of the biggest non-negotiables for you as a mother?
This might sound controversial, but I have to come first in every way. I have to come first because I was not shown that in my childhood. I was an eldest of 5 children, and my father passed away when I was 7. So there was 5 of us. The youngest was 6 months old, and so I became like a second little mother. And my mum was just constantly doing everything for all of us, and she didn't take care of herself. She was busy, and she honestly did the best she could. And she's an incredible mother. Don't get me wrong, but it presented with so many problems in my 20s. I had children when I was in my early 20s, and I just constantly did everything for everyone because we were farming at the time as well when we decided to have children. And I just found myself in these slots, like the slot of the mother, the slot of the housework person, the slot of making the dinner, the slot of the farmer, the slot of the accountant. Like I just had all these slots, and I never once stepped back to look at myself and go, oh, but what about me? My identity was defined in these slots that I fitted into. So when I started unwinding and learning about mindset and decided to like start my own business and really worked on my own development, my own personal development, my own walk, like getting in touch with me and really getting to know myself. And that is when I discovered, well, being a mother is a heck of a lot more than just doing everything for everyone, because I want to show my kids how to live a life on purpose, how to live a life with intention. And that begins with me. I have to prioritize myself every time, all the time. And yes, there might be some dishes laying around, but my argument is that I'm sitting looking across now, there's a dirty pot sitting on the thing there with food that I need to get rid of. Is that going to be sitting there in 20 years time? No, it's not. Before this podcast call, I decided to do a dance party and to make myself a coffee, because that is more important than doing the dishes on the bench. They aren't going to be there in 20 years time, but if I constantly put everything else before me, in 20 years time, I wouldn't have lived my life on purpose and with intention.
My goodness, that was fully loaded right there with all the good stuff. And so I love how you call them slots. The thing that I refer to is like that I wear all the hats. Is that I felt like I had to wear all the hats for my family and say all the things. And it was actually a big conversation that I ended up having to have with my husband about, being a team and not feeling like we have to do these things solo, or feeling like one person has to do more than the other. Because yes, motherhood, we have made the decision to, carry these babies and birth these babies into the world. But I believe also that we did not make that choice alone. At least I did not make that choice alone. And so I've always reminded my husband that we are a team. But I love that when you were talking about, we wear all these hats, and that it's important for us to know, fill our cup, as you kind of said in a roundabout way, but also the fact that we lead. This is a big thing that I talk about, is how we lead and how she leads herself. And like, we are seriously leading for generations to come. Like, it is this massive ripple effect that starts with you. And a big thing too is like, generationally, we take on a lot of, our parents' habits, our grandparents' habits, that we aren't even aware of. And so that goes into a whole other topic in itself, but it's important to be aware. Like, I think the awareness piece around showing up for ourselves is huge, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. Awareness is the key to everything. If you're not aware of something, you can't fix it, or can't even know whether you should fix it, right? Like, awareness is 100% the key.
And so this actually leads really well, because we were talking about like non-negotiables, and then we were talking about, leading. And so what has been like one of the biggest challenges that you've faced as a mother in the entrepreneurial space?
As a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, me setting a boundary that this is, which links into what you're saying, the conversations you had to have with your husband too. I had to set boundaries that my frame of mind used to lead me to believe that me working was something extra on the side, and therefore it didn't warrant my husband, after he comes home from work, to then look after the kids or put them to bed or make dinner or clean the house, do the kids and make dinner, right? So I was like, oh, well, this is a fun hobby on the side. This is something that I need to arrange around everyone else. But I was like, well, actually, no, that's not okay. So I don't get my dreams because he's out working his job, whether it's his dream or not. It's not my responsibility to do it all. So I had to set a boundary and be like, this is my soul's calling. My soul's calling is not to have done everything done in this house with my husband. I love my husband and my kids, don't get me wrong, but I love me more. And that is healthy. That is a healthy place to be. So if I want to be healthy within myself, I need to set healthier boundaries for myself and get rid of this stupid guilt and these ridiculous beliefs that everyone else has to come first. So I need to set the boundaries and have some conversations for myself in my head first and sort out my things, and then come forth with a plan and discuss with my husband and be like, these are my goals. How could we compromise and make it work? And, there's an adjustment phase, but now 3 nights a week, as soon as my husband comes home from work, he has the kids right through till whenever. And I do all of my work, and I don't necessarily just work. Sometimes I have a 3-hour bath and watch Netflix. Like, it's for me, because when we're building a business for ourselves, it's a soul-centered business. We have to look after ourselves too. So whatever it looks like, it's all building for our business, because the better we are, the better our business is. So setting the boundaries and just allowing myself to have a boundary that I used to think was absolutely a luxury or ludicrous or like prissy or whatever, but it's just like, well, I'm a whole human being, so why can't I have this?
Okay, so I'm literally sitting here being like, preach it, because this is seriously a conversation that I recently had as well with my husband about these beliefs on me needing to set boundaries for my business, and that my business is not just this hobby. Like, it's not just this extra little thing on the side. This is my life, and this is something I'm passionate about, and it warrants being able to be passionate in it, like actually doing the thing and doing the work and being present inside of that. Because I said to him, I'm home with the children, and I'm trying to balance all of these things, because that's what I was trying to do. Was I was running, I have a little boy that I babysit, so I was running a daycare. I was taking care of our kids. I was going back and forth. And then when my husband got home, I felt like I couldn't do my business because he was coming home from work. And I felt like I had to be on and do all of these other things. And finally, I just said, I can't do everything alone. And I can't try to balance all of this plus build a business without some support and love and encouragement from you and understanding. And so that was a major, conversation we had to have. And I had to set some big boundaries that this was a non-negotiable for me, and that this was going to be big, but it required me to actually be intentional with it and to do the work instead of just treating it like a side hobby.
Yeah, for sure. And I think once they see the results, once that we see we're more sane or we're enjoying our life more, even they see some financial results, that's when they're like, oh, now I see why. But I don't, like, my husband doesn't get my business. He is not my business partner. I do this on my own. This is my thing. He really does not get it, like, at all. And I'm okay with that because it's mine. I'm doing me, boo. You do you, boo. We come together and have this life,
Oh, yes. Okay, so I love that you just said that it's your thing and that he doesn't understand it, because that was actually a big conversation as well that I had. And a big fear of my husband's was that I was going to grow out of him, because I was taking so much time on bettering myself and bettering my mindset and being this woman who was confident in every roundabout way, that I asked him, what is this fear that is coming up for you? Like, why is there this lack of support? Why is there these constant arguments surrounding this? And his biggest fear was he was scared that I was going to fall out of love with him because I was going to find myself again. And I told him, instead of feeling like I'm going to fall out of love with you, could you imagine the capacity of love I'm going to be able to have for you with how much I've spent, the time that I'm intentionally spending on myself, that me learning to love myself is going to allow me to love you tenfold, because I've learned to love myself. And like, as we were saying at the beginning, like, I lead. I personally feel like I need to lead the way. And so if I'm not doing that for myself, if I'm not being accountable, how am I supposed to love everybody else if I can't even love myself?
Yeah. I 100,000% agree. And yeah, those conversations are tough. Yeah, my husband has had times as well where he's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Like, how is this going to affect our marriage? But ultimately, life is a journey. And the more whole we are, the more we can love others, the more we can put into everyone else. And it's like the whole jug analogy, right? We can have our jug half full and pour it out. Then we have all these glasses, have a full jug, all these glasses around us, and we've got our husband and our kids and whatever else that's really important to us. We pour our love out and, into these little cups, or we can just keep on filling our jug and the overflow goes to them. They still get the love, they still get everything, but we're a whole human being doing it, and it feels so much freaking better. One of the things that I did to implement that, and it's going back to the boundaries and stuff, is, so my husband has the kids 3 nights a week, and then he has them on Saturdays, most of Saturday as well. And I also was like, I need a cleaner. A cleaner is cleaning my house is something that I actually do enjoy doing sometimes, to be honest. But having a cleaner 3 hours a week feels to me so much bigger than I've gained more than 3 hours, like 100%.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, that was like an energy leak for me. It was a huge area where it was just sucking my soul of its passion, its fire and everything. So 3 hours a week, my cleaner comes in, and and then my kids go to daycare 3 days a week as well. And it's created a much different picture for me than it was 12 months ago. We were farming, and I was working 40 hours a week with my kids with me on the farm. And it was just nuts, man. My husband was doing 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. It was just insane. Like, like when I compare my life now than it was a year ago, it's just, it just took a whole lot of boundaries. It took a whole lot of me looking and going like, what do I actually want? Like, the notebook when he's like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, what do you actually fucking want? And then make a plan to go and get it, because you're the only one who can go and get it. No one else is going to get it for you. No one else is going to plan to set these boundaries. No one else is going to like, maybe we should hire you a cleaner. Your mother-in-law's not going to be like, hey, have you thought of hiring a cleaner? I could pay for you. We have to do these things for ourselves.
Yes. And so, the biggest thing there too is that we are the only obstacle standing in our way. There could be situations and circumstances, but at the end of the day, we make choices on where we want to go. We make choices, we make decisions, and those decisions have a ripple effect into, other people's lives and the people around us. And this was something that I had to, explain to my children too, like being intentional with my business, because they were so used to having me all the time. They were not used to me setting these boundaries and not being able to answer them at that very second, or being on, a podcast interview, for example, where I have to let my children know, like, I'm on here. This is my time. This is my hour. If you need something, I need you to wait. And then I'll be able to be present with you and respond with you and, give you all the attention. And, I feel like, I want to talk about this now that I have this idea in my head. in regards to feeling like you have to constantly be on for your children. Because I think that was like one of the biggest things I had to navigate, was that, being intentional with my business and showing up for myself, somehow I had felt like I was taking away from my children. Did you ever feel that?
Yes and no. So and initially, no, because I was raised in a farming family, and my husband was as well. So the norm was for our family raising is the kids just get dragged on the farm. Like, this is what you do. You have to wait. You have to be patient. This is like, tough. You have to cry. We've said all your needs. If you're just going to cry, it's a whatever. Like, I was a cried out mum. Like, I was quite, not ruthless. It's just different. Like, honestly, it was very different. And a lot more wholesome, like my parents were brought up, and my husband, and we were brought up. Like, we're soft in that. It was a bit of a mixture of the generations. But then moving to entrepreneurship and leaving the farm, there was definitely times where I was like, oh, but like I could spend time with my kids now instead of having a bath, because I would have been working right now if we're on the farm still. But, then I had to just come back to go, well, yeah, I want my children to see me living a soul-led purpose life with a full cup. That is the mission. Like, I want to do it for myself, don't get me wrong, but in the beginning, before I could do it for myself, I needed to do it for my kids, to show them how to love themselves, to show them how to do something for themselves and be a whole human being, doing it. And now I'm at a stage where it's the other way around, like I do it for me, and I'm so pleased that they get to see that. But yeah, in the beginning, I was like, I don't want my children to feel the way I feel, with the guilt or the worry or the boundaries, all those things. I was like, if there's a way that I can skip my children experiencing that, then I'm 100% going to do it for them.
Yes. And I love that you brought that up too. You're doing it for you, and you're teaching them. This was I actually sent out an email today all about this, all about, leading yourself and stepping into this woman that you are, and that you're teaching your children what it is to show up for themselves, no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone does. At the end of the day, you're teaching them to show up for themselves and for what they ultimately want. Because when I think about my life, when I think about my children, I look at them and I want the absolute best for them. I don't ever want them to second guess themselves or not believe in themselves. And I want them to do whatever the heck they feel like they need to do to have this massively abundant life. And I don't want them to have all these roadblocks that I seem to go through, but I know eventually in their life they'll come to them. We all have to grow. But I want to teach them that you do it and you take the action and you build the life that you want, and that you don't rely on every other person to do it for you, and that it starts with you. And that is like where your happiness stems from, the love that you have for yourself. It starts with you. It doesn't start from receiving it from everybody else. Like, yes, I could receive love all I want, but if I don't actually love myself, am I actually fully receiving it? Am I actually being open to possibilities or anything else? No. And the biggest thing that I've actually had a conversation with lately with my kids and with my husband is that I'm not going to force my children to do things that make them uncomfortable, or, to go to post-secondary, do these things. I want it to be their choice. I want them to feel like they have a choice growing, and not feel like they have been restrained from, making a decision. Because that was the biggest thing that I felt held me back as a child, was feeling as if I couldn't make a decision for myself, and feeling like everybody else was making the decisions for me before I even was able to speak. And I think I don't know, I probably, circled back to a whole different topic there, but I felt like that was important to talk about. And we're teaching our children to have a voice.
Yeah, for sure. I resonate with that hard out too, with the whole, I got to my teenage years and, going off to uni and stuff. And I didn't even really, honestly, I didn't consider what I wanted to do. I just followed the flow of life. Like, I was in this river, I'm sitting on the boat, sweet, everyone's going here, so I just follow it. This is sort of the stuff my parents had said they wanted me to do, or society, or I've said on TV, this is how you get success, like whatever it was, I really was on a ship, on my own ship, and was not the captain in any way. Everything and everyone else was. And but that was my part of my awakening, was going, oh, I actually get to control where I go. Like, what? Yeah. Of course you do. But beforehand, when someone when it all came together, I had that realization. I was like, so I can actually do what I want. Because I'd heard people say this before, but when I actually felt it for myself that I'm actually in control, that's when I was just like, oh shit. Well, I better start changing things then, because I am currently not going where I want to go.
I love that. Oh shit. Well, growing up, I grew up with a father who very much had the mindset of 9 to 5, you need your benefits, you need to have this, you need to have security. And then I also grew up on the other spectrum. My parents divorced at a young age. So then my mother was an entrepreneur. And through and through, where you could not hold her down. She would do anything she set her mind to, and she would accomplish it. And she taught me that whatever you set your mind to, that you could do. And then, my father had more of that limiting and that more of scarcity. And so when I made the decision to step into entrepreneurship, I'm pretty sure my father almost had, passed out, because he went straight into this fear. He went into the fear of well, how are you going to support yourself? How are you going to support your family? Is this even true? what are you doing? I don't understand it. And the biggest thing was that he didn't understand. And I feel like I'm bringing this back around in regards to my husband and, you know, something you said earlier about them not understanding what we are necessarily doing. And a big conversation I had to have with my husband was that I don't understand what you do for a living. I don't understand it. I know you're passionate about it. I know it lights you the hell up and you could talk till you're blue in the face about it, but I don't understand a single word that you were saying when you're talking about it. And it's not because I don't want to understand it, but I genuinely, it's not my passion. It's not something that lights me up. It's not something that I, want to know more about, if I'm being honest. It's not my thing. And so I said to him one day, why? And the same thing I said to my father was, why do I have to justify what I'm passionate about? I don't ask you to justify to me why you are passionate about what you are. I just support and love you and encourage you to do what you want to do. I don't ever, and I've never said that to anyone. I've never said, oh, well, you need to prove to me why this is important or why you're passionate about this. Never. If someone's passionate about something, I support them. I'm like, if this is something you want to do with your life and this is the path you choose to take, then hell yeah, I support you. And that was the biggest thing that I said to my husband was, why do I have to justify or, work 10 times harder or try to balance all of these things alone when I support you in your passion? Like, why do two passions have to even remotely look the same? I don't think they need to.
No, I don't think they do. And that reminded me of something when you were talking about all that, was that it's society, it's our conditioning, it's our childhood, it's our whatever, our perceptions, the things that we've taken on consciously and unconsciously, but we often have this desire, this need to know everything about everything and to understand it all so we can make a picture in our head. However, we have to be okay with not understanding.
Oh my
no
goodness,
matter
yes.
no matter how much we are like one of our siblings. Like if you close your eyes, and you've got siblings, right? Have you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
4 siblings. Okay, cool. I've got 4. So like if you close your eyes and think of your sibling who's most like you, and everyone who's listening to your sibling who's most like you, and you remember their childhood and what they used to be like and how they are now and how they've evolved and stuff, are there things that you wouldn't know about them? Like how they think, or how they would, there are definitely things that we don't know about them that they have never told anyone. And it's the same thing for our partner, it's the same thing for our children, it's the same thing for our mother, it's the same thing for our father. We have always been gathering all this evidence our whole life so that we think we know everything about everyone, but we know shit about everyone, but we think we know everything. So it creates this huge need and desire to understand everything about everyone, but we never actually understand it. So why bother? Because we're getting this perception of this warped perception that we need to know everything. But actually, when we just let go of the control and just go, well, I'm not going to know everything. All I need to listen to is their soul, their feelings, how lit up they are about their life, or their emotions. You look at the things that actually matter, not the details. Look at the things that actually matter, and you don't need to know the details.
100%. Yes. Honestly, I'm sitting here in complete awe of this conversation because there is so many things that have come up even in the last couple weeks that we are talking about and that we're discussing, that I'm just sitting here yes, this needs to be talked about. This is coming up for a reason. And that's the beautiful thing about alignment too. But, the not understanding piece, I want to touch on that as well. This need for control, because I feel like as mothers, it's a very, masculine driven energy. When we're in a mothering mode, it's very masculine and it's very do and get things done and make sure everyone's taken care of. And, when it comes to trying to, talk to everybody else or having other people understand you, is that it may not be in their current reality. This is something actually that I just read the other day about how we try to understand so many other people, or we expect other people to try to understand us. But when it's not in their actual reality, in their current now, why do they need to take the time to understand it? Or why do we? And that's a lot of the time where conflict comes into play, is when we don't understand why someone has made a choice. It's because that decision is not in their realm of reality. That decision is not something that they are making at that moment. And so it confuses them. And so, but yeah, are you following that part? Because I feel
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And it's a waste of energy too, right? Like when we're putting, like everything is energy. Everything we put out, everything we do, and we only have a certain, well, I'm a manifestor in human design, so I only have a certain amount of energy. That's really important for me. I have to protect my energy and, well, not protect, just like I'm mindful of it, right? And if we're wasting energy on these things that don't actually matter, how much more could we be putting that into ourselves, into our self-care, or our love, or our boundaries, or our business, or our copywriting, or our website? Like how much better can it serve us by using it for us instead of something that doesn't actually matter anyway?
Yeah, honestly, and that's been like a huge thing coming up for me in my business, is that, you know, I was taking this time to, you know, invest in myself and to, you know, take in all the content that I ended up, you know, feeling lost within myself too. And I think this is an important piece for moms to know, is that it's important to look inward as to who you are and what you want, because you can learn all of these things, but if it doesn't serve you and it's not something that, you know, is in alignment with you or lights you up, then it doesn't serve you. Like, it's just that simple. You know, with my business, the biggest thing that came up was that I was talking to my coach about wanting this, you know, time freedom. But what the heck did that even look like? And I kept saying, you know, I want time freedom. I want time freedom. And she asked me, well, what the hell does that look like? Like, do you even know? Do you even know what that time freedom looks like in your life, or what you actually want that to look like for you and your family? And I sat there and being like, oh, you know, I thought it just meant time freedom. Like, people throw that word around a lot. And when I had to think about it, it was, you know, I started my business because I wanted to also be very freaking intentional with my family, that I wanted to be present, and I didn't want to have to ask someone for days off, and I didn't want to, you know, ask somebody else's permission. I wanted to show up for myself and make a massive impact, but not having to sacrifice my family time. Like, that was huge for me. And instead of trying to do everything, I actually learned that leaning back gave me so much more freedom in my business, but also the freedom to show up for my family. And so I feel like, you know, there's a lot of, you know, mothers who are entrepreneurs who feel like they are struggling to balance, and they're struggling to balance, like, you know, their business and their babies. But in a roundabout way, you know, I feel when we have children, I feel like there isn't always a balance. You know, we search for this balance and this delicate balance that we feel is going to be like, you know, we're not going to lean one way right or one way left, or but it really, I don't think the balance really exists. I think the balance is truly within ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And that balance then comes out and, you know, and has a ripple effect into every other aspect of our life.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think that what we have to balance is how we feel.
Yeah.
So like like with the dishes sitting on my bench right now, if I was to try and go and do it for this podcast interview, it wouldn't feel great. But probably after this podcast interview, I like to be busy and like decompressing my hands and stuff. So straight after this podcast interview, I'm probably going to feel like doing the dishes. So it's not about like balancing it all. I think honestly, it's about unfucking our minds and unraveling everything and being like, let's go on a clean slate. What do I feel like doing right now? And I honestly, when I did this for myself, I actually found I was more productive. But I got everything done, but it didn't feel weird or bad or forced or unaligned or anything anymore. It just felt like it was flowing and like it was right. And it requires you to let go of, like, you know, these industry standards and these expectations of your house standard and your children's dress code and whatever, you know, like honestly, like let go of everything and just clear the slate and be like, what do I feel like doing right now? How do I want to feel in this situation? What does time freedom feel like to me? Like, what is the feeling I'm chasing? People often always go for like the dreams and the goals and the jets and the money and the, you know, be able to have a nanny and a cleaner, like whatever. I'm not against any of those things. Probably I listed everything I want, probably, to be honest. So no judgment here. Any of those things you want, all of them, we're on the same boat. But it's, for me, it's those things are part of the picture, but that's not what I'm chasing. What I'm chasing is the feeling.
Yes.
I want to feel financially like I can go on a luxury jet. I want to feel like happy and excited and peaceful when someone comes and cleans my house, and I want to feel like I can just sit and watch Netflix or go on a podcast and do my cleaners here. I want to feel a specific way. Those honestly are feeling, and this is my conditioning prior to my walk for the last few years was my feelings could not be trusted. So we've got to undo it all and unravel it all and get back to like, we actually can trust our feelings. We can trust our gut feelings. We can trust everything. It's just, we just need to clear the slate and do the work and figure it out.
We actually have to start listening to ourselves. You know, I feel like society has, how do I want to put this nicely? Like, basically, I feel like a lot of people are just robots, and they're moving through their day. They're waking up, they're having their coffee, they're going to work, they're coming home, they're eating, they're going to bed. And it's just this robotic movement. And it's time that we actually, you know, went inside and actually figured out, like you said, like, what do we want? What feeling is it that we actually want to feel? Because that is so important. I feel like society has suppressed emotions, or has taught us to suppress emotions, whether it be through, you know, doing extracurricular things, all these other things. Actually, we could name a ton of things, but I feel like society has numbed our emotions, and it's time to actually allow ourselves to process that. And, you know, that can actually be kind of scary when you haven't done it in a long time. And so I agree. I think it's important, like you said, to just really ask yourself, like, what do you want? What feeling is it that you want to embody? But, you know, and this actually goes into the last question that I have for you is, you know, to any of the mothers who are afraid to put her needs first, you know, the mothers who feel unworthy and scared, you know, in investing in themselves or standing up for themselves, you know, what would you say to her?
Oh, so many things. So I want to say so many things. I'm going to think of what the most impactful thing would be right now. It just, yeah. You have to do your life. You have to be the captain of your own ship. No one else is going to do it for you. Like, you are the most important person in your world. And when you can embody that, that is when you will love people harder. You will show up better for your children. You will have a better marriage. You will have a more successful business. You will make the impact that you want to in the world. How many people you want to help, or plants, or the planet, or like whoever you want to help. What your soul mission is here. What your soul's mission is here to do. That is when you'll be able to do it. When you show up for yourself and you prioritize yourself first.
That is beautiful. And honestly, I want to, you know, leave it at that. I feel like we've had a very beautiful conversation, and we've gone way off of, you know, what I had notes on here, which I think is beautiful. And I allow the space in this podcast to be able to do that. And so, you know, for the moms that are listening, for the women who are listening in right now, and they are resonating with you and want to connect with you, can you let them know how they can connect with you further?
Yeah, thank you. I would love to. So Instagram is where I hang out the most, and my handle is @highvibebabe. I also have a Facebook community called High Vibe Babes Community, and I created that for, when I learnt, one of the things I learnt about was, you know, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I was like, okay, so that's my in-laws, that's my 2 children and my husband, and none of them are like really that happy. I mean, children, you know, whatever, but and it wasn't living what they weren't living life on it, you know, the adults were not living a life on purpose and with intention. So I created this group this year because I just want supportive women to be around other supportive women who get each other, who are into personal development, and just support each other, like 100%, like your best BFFs that you always wish you had in this group. So I highly recommend joining that. And I also have a podcast called High Vibe Babes. Oh, High Vibe Babe. Yeah, is my podcast as well. Yeah.
I will make sure that all of these are also linked in the show notes. So you guys, it'll all be there. You can go directly to, and holy, if I could speak right now, you can go and connect with her. But I want to say thank you again so much for being in this space, for coming and doing this interview, for having an honest conversation with me. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I adore you. And I'm super happy that we had this conversation.
Thank you so much. Ditto to all of that. And thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. I will see you guys all in the next episode. Bye, guys.